Hello, this is Ibrahim speaking. Today we're going to approach an exercise with a database from Kaggle called Avocado Prices. It approaches an interesting problem that says, it is a well-known fact that millennials love avocado toast. It's also a well-known fact that all millennials live in their parents' basements. Clearly, they aren't buying home because they are buying too much avocado toast. But maybe there's hope. If a millennial could find a city with cheap avocados, they could live out the millennial American dream. So we're gonna try to answer these two questions that inspire the problem from this Kaggle database. In which cities can millennials have their avocado toast and buy a home? And was the Avocadopocalypse of 2017 real? In order to do this, we're going to use the following tools in Minitab: Split Worksheet, Histogram, Subset Worksheet, Graphical Summary, Boxplot, Time Series Plot, and finally the Scatterplot. So let's start our analysis. As you can see, I already have the database here in Minitab. It has several columns. The first one is nothing but an index, then a date stamp telling us what is the date in which the average price and all this rest of the information was captured, the average price of one single avocado piece, the total volume of avocado pieces sold. These are the number of avocados that were sold according to a particular index. In this case, these are small avocados, large avocados, and extra large avocados. The following information is about the total bags that were sold, the type of avocado, conventional or organic, the year it is happening, that is pretty much the same as the date, and finally the region in the United States. For this analysis, we are going to use exclusively the average price, the date, the type, and the region of this database. So let's start the analysis. As you can see here, we have two kinds of avocados, conventional and at the end organic. So the first thing I want to do is to split this database into two different, one for conventional and one for organic, because I want to work with the conventional type. In order to do that, I'm gonna approach to this button data and split worksheet. It is telling me I want to split the worksheet by the type variable. I just selected the type, I press OK, and now I'm going to have three databases. I can see them clearly by pressing at this button that is for showing the worksheets folder. When I press this button, I'm going to see that I have three databases. The original one, in which I have all the data. In this case, I have 18,249 elements. But if I go to the conventional avocado, I'm going to see that I have much less information than in the previous one. This is the database that I'm going to use. And the first thing I want to analyze is, what is happening with this avocado. So what I'm going to do is try to analyze the histogram of all the possible regions that I have in here. To do that, I'm gonna go to Graph, and then in the menu, Histogram. When I select Histogram, this is gonna tell me, okay, how do you want to analyze it? I want a simple histogram, but you're gonna see what I'm gonna do, a little trick to have a matrix of histograms. I select a simple histogram, and the variable I want to graph is the average price. So I just double click on the average price and I have a huge histogram of everything that is on my database. But just look carefully that I have several regions, and one of those regions is the US total. So probably it's not a good idea to get everything together. What I'm gonna do is here to select what's happening with the multiple graph. And in the menu by variables, I'm going to select that I want to have a selection of by variables with groups in separate panels, particularly by region, so I just double click on it. And look carefully what's going to happen. Instead of taking one huge histogram, the result is going to be a matrix of several histograms. In this matrix, if I make it larger, probably it's still smaller, so I'm going to press here to have some zoom of 200%. what I'm going to have here are as many histograms as regions I have in my database. Here at the bottom, you have the total of US. This is the average of everything that is happening in the United States. But you can see that there are several kinds of histograms depending on the region that you are analyzing. Some of them are going to be following a kind of Gauss bell, like are quite symmetric. Some of them are going to be a little bit like if it was a uniform distribution. As you can see, they are pretty flat, like this one in Grand Rapids. You're going to see some distributions in which you have a right tail, just like this one in Louisville. When you look at this right tail, it means that the body of the histogram is at your left. But there were some times in which the price of avocado was pretty high. The same happens, for example, here in Nashville. Here in Nashville. It happens also in Plains. Here in Syracuse, you can see that the tail is located a little bit to the left. That is, probably most of the prices are quite high. So what we want to do is to locate which of these cities is going to have the lowest possible prices for avocado. Remember that we want to buy avocado and also a house. So what we're going to do is to take as reference the total US. I want to analyze the total US independently and see what is happening with it. In order to do that, let me go back with this button to all my worksheets. And remember that I am analyzing the conventional avocado. What I'm going to do is, by using the menu Data, Subset Worksheet, I'm going to select a new worksheet in which what I want to do is to use the rows that match a condition. Which condition? The one that includes that in the column region, the region that I am taking is the total US. And let me name this new worksheet as Total US. Space US. Here it is. I press OK, and now I have a new worksheet, this one that I have in here. Let me make it larger. Here it is. And what I can see here is that the region that I am analyzing is just total US, and I want to see how the histogram looks like. I'm not going to repeat the analysis with the tool of graph and histogram. Instead, I'm going to go to the menu Stat. Here in the Stat and Basic Statistics, there is a tool pretty interesting that is the Graphical Summary. This Graphical Summary allows us to do an exploratory analysis of any variable we want. I select Graphical Summary, and the variable I want to analyze is again average price. I select OK, and let's look at what happens. This new analysis is quite interesting. First of all, it's giving us the histogram. In this histogram, we can clearly see there is a right tail here, and we can confirm it by looking at these statistics measures that we have here. The average is 1.09, that is located somehow in this bar of the histogram, the 1.09. The standard deviation is 0.17. Remember that as larger the standard deviation, or larger the variance, remember that the standard deviation is the square root of the variance, larger the dispersion of our data. Roughly, you can see that the standard deviation is approximately almost 20%, slightly less, 17%, something like that, from the mean, which means that we have quite a dispersion. You can also confirm it by looking at this graph in here. This is called a box and whisker plot, or just Boxplot. And what it means is that on this line we have approximately 25% of data, 25% of data on the next box, 25% of data on the next box, and approximately 25% of data on this one. Why I'm saying approximately? Because of the existence of these little points. These are called outliers, and this means that these elements are quite different than the rest of the prices. Remember that we're analyzing price of the prices that happened on the rest of the weeks. So what we're looking at is, because of these outliers, there is a right tail over here. The tail, because of the skewness, it is positive, so we can see that the tail is basically at the right. the body of the distribution then is at the left. But the kurtosis that is positive is telling us that the tail of our data is particularly thin. However, the existence of these outliers are making the histograms to look weird. These outliers, the effect that they have, is that the mean of our variable is going to shift slightly to the right. Instead of being located at the center of the body of the distribution, it is shifted to the right, and you can see that it is being located at this particular bar that we can see on the histogram. Look at the median. The median is this line that you have on the Boxplot. The median means that 50% of data is before 1.04 and the other 50% of data is over 1.04. As you can see, the median is located on this other bar, pretty much on the body of the histogram. And if you want to avoid these outliers, probably it's a better idea to use the median to compare data than to use the mean. Instead of analyzing the average of data, I'm going to analyze where half of the data is. So what I want to do is to say in which city I can live in such a way that most of my prices are going to be below half of the cities or half of the prices that I can see in most of the cities or in the total amount of data in the United States. You can see the same here in the confidence intervals. Remember that the confidence intervals are just telling us this point is the 1.09, the mean that I am calculating using my sample data. But if I consider that this is just a sample and not the population, probably the true mean is going to be from this point to this point. That is from $1.06 per avocado to $1.12, almost $12 per avocado. However, the median, look at what's happening with this confidence interval, is much smaller, and that's why we're going to compare all the values with respect to the median. So let's do it. I'm going to go again to my worksheets, and I want to go back to the avocado conventional types, this one. I'm going to perform the same analysis by going to graph, then to the Boxplot, and again I'm going to use a simple, not the Boxplot, I'm going to use a histogram. Again, I want a simple histogram. And as you can see, everything is already in here. I want to analyze the average price. I am separating everything by region, but I'm going to include something else. Here where it says scale, there's a space for the reference lines. The reference lines are nothing but lines that I can use as reference. As you may remember, let me cancel so I can show you what am I going to use. As you may remember on the last image, the median was located at 1.04. So this 1.04 is the one that I want to analyze. Let me go back again to my table, and I want to include the histogram. Remember, this is the simple one and everything is already in there. But I want to include in the scale the reference line at 1.04. That is the median where half of the data is located at. With this modification, remember it was located at scale, reference line 1.04, the only thing I do is to press OK, and I'm going to see exactly the same matrix, but now a little bit different. My mistake, I located it at the y-axis instead of the x-axis. Let me close this image. And I'm going to repeat with graph, histogram. Everything is again already in there. The reference line is not going to be at y-axis. I want it on the data values, 1.04. So look at what is going to happen now. When I have the same image, and let me zoom in a little bit, the first thing you need to notice is that now the 1.04 is located at every graph, and I can see that some cities are the worst cities to live if you want to eat an avocado toast every day. For example, here in Buffalo, the prices are much higher than the median, on the United States. You can see, for example, that if you want to live in Boston, the same is going to happen. But if you want to live in Dallas, most of the time, the prices are going to be below this median, and just some little weeks, some weeks of the year, you're going to have a price that is beyond that point. And you can see that that is happening on several of the cities. In Syracuse, it is extremely a high price of avocado. But if you go maybe to Phoenix, in Phoenix you're going to have a lower price. So it is quite easier to see what's happening on each of the cities. However, you need to analyze all the histograms to locate at what is the city in which you want to live. So let me do a quite different analysis. Instead of using the histogram, I'm going to use the Boxplot just as we did on the exploratory analysis of total US. I'm going to go to Graph, then I'm going to select the Boxplot, and I'm going to use a different option here. I want a Boxplot with groups, so I can do this automatically. When I press OK, it is asking me for two things, the graphing variable, and then the categorical variable for grouping. The graph variable is going to be again the average price. I just double click, and I want to select this by region. Moreover, at scale, I want to include again the reference line. Remember that now it's going to be at the Y value. Remember that the median at the United States was $1.04 per avocado. So I include this reference line at Y, I press OK. Average price to graph, according to the region, I press OK, and I'm going to have a quite different graph. Now this is the graph that I am looking. Look carefully how this is the 1.04 that we told before. But now, as lower the bars, it means that the avocado price is lower. As higher these bars, it means that the avocado price is higher, obviously. What we want to do is to select a city in which most of the time the avocado price was pretty cheap. If you select according to just this bottom line, remember that that means the first 25%. The first square means the next 25%, 25, and another 25 with the outliers. And what you can see is that the city with the lowest price is this one in here. If I locate the cursor, it is telling me that it is in Phoenix. And if I go to live in Phoenix, just look at the following. 75% of the time, because that's the Q3, the price of avocado is going to be less than 78 cents per avocado. That's the meaning of that Q3 that you look in there. The median is 0.68. It means that half of the time of the previous years, the price of an avocado was below 68 cents per avocado. So it's something quite interesting to notice, and something that we should be considering if we want to live in a city where we can buy avocados every day. So what if we analyze Phoenix then to find out what is happening and why there are some outliers that, as you can see, are the unique points beyond the US median that we found before. So let's find it out. Let me go again to my table. Remember that here I'm locating all the cities, all the regions according to conventional avocados. And I'm going to subset again the worksheet by selecting not the total US, but now I'm going to select Phoenix, Tucson, and I'm going to name the worksheet as Phoenix, just Phoenix. I press OK, and now I have a new worksheet. What I want to do is to analyze this worksheet, this particular worksheet. Let me change the view. Here it is. And the first thing I'm going to do is to repeat the analysis, in which I select in Stat, Basic Statistics, the Graphical Summary, and again the average price. And what you're going to see is that now the average price is slightly different. This analysis is for Phoenix, and you can see that all these statistics are changing. The mean is smaller, is 0.72. This is the median, the 0.68, exactly the same information that we found on these elements. But we're interested in knowing that what happened with these points. Because the skewness is positive, the tail is to the right. Obviously, we have some prices that are quite higher, but the frequency is low. The kurtosis is positive, which means that the tail is pretty thin, but the existence of outliers is something interesting. So the first question that may arise is, when did these prices happen? Are they related with the Avocadopocalypse of 2017? Let's find it out. In order to find it out, the first thing that I'm going to do is go to graph, and I'm going to graph the time series plot of Phoenix, just of Phoenix. It's a simple time series plot. I press OK. The series I want to analyze is the average price, but the time scale that I will use is not the index. They are in order, but what I want to use is a stamp. This data stamp is this one that we had before already on the database. I press OK, I press OK again, and what I'm going to see is that this is the time series, as you can see it goes from 2015 to 2017, of what happened with the avocado price in Phoenix. And there's something interesting. Let me use this tool. This tool is also called the brush, is select data points, so I select it, and what this is telling me is that these points that you can see are the highest points, over $1.1 per avocado. They are the strange points that happened, all of them, at 2017. Moreover, if we want to see what is happening with these particular rows, remember that I have just selected them, let me go back to my worksheet. I'm going to look at the points or at the elements in the worksheet with a little pointing here. These points are the ones that I selected. And as you can see, I am considering from August of 2017 up to October of 2017. So there were 3 months in which the prices were pretty high. So probably the answer to this question is, yeah, it was quite real. But if it was real and the prices were particularly high, did it have an impact on the number of avocados, the total volume that were sold? Let's find it out. What I'm going to do is to include another graph, again using Phoenix. I'm going to include a scatterplot, and in this scatterplot, it's a simple scatterplot. What I want to do is to include on the y-axis what is happening with the average price, and in the x-axis the total volume. So what I'm going to obtain is a typical demand curve as in any economics course. I select OK, and this is what I obtain. As you can see, this is not a line, as in the economic text appears. This line has a curvature, but what this is telling us is pretty much that as the price decreases, the total volume increases. That is pretty logical according to economics. But something interesting is that it doesn't matter how high the price was. People were still buying avocados. As you can see here, you have a wide section in which avocados were, the same amount of avocados were bought at this price, but also at $1.3 per piece. Which means that it doesn't matter that the price was too high, we are still buying a lot of avocados. Which means that the answer of the first question is, it doesn't matter that we go to live to a city in which avocados are cheap, because if the price increases, we're still buying avocado toasts, and maybe we won't have money for buying a home. So thank you very much for listening to this analysis, and see you later.